Hi, everyone. Thank you for tuning into episode 3 of Power Dads. Today I have the educator dad, Hamdi El Badoui El Najjar. And he is a chemistry teacher and education consultant, originally from Lebanon, but he is holed up in New York City now. And I'm going to let him introduce himself, and then we're just going to get into the questions.
Thank you so much for this invitation. And I want to add something that today in Lebanon is the Father Day.
Oh, awesome. Happy Father's Day.
Thank you so much. In the Lebanon time.
And so, so Hamdi, tell us a little bit about, I actually saw recently that you became a New York City teaching fellow, and I was
Yeah,
really
exactly.
excited about that because I know that you had been teaching as a chemistry teacher overseas, and so now you're, getting into actually teaching in New York City. And so what are some of like the similarities and differences that you've kind of like seen so far,
Okay.
as like starting out now?
Yeah, okay. So my name is Hamdi Al Badwi Al Najjar. I'm a proud husband and a proud father of three kids, two boys and my little princess. And I was raised in Tripoli, in Lebanon, where I began to love chemistry since grade 11. I had the opportunity to go to France to study chemistry. I hold a bachelor degrees in chemistry, a master degrees in chemistry, and also I have a not master, it's advanced study in chemistry also.
Okay.
Okay, and uh, uh,
So tell us a little bit about like what it was like teaching, and as a
uh,
chemistry teacher in Lebanon.
yeah, so I have taught chemistry for 21 years in a high school, in the private high school, which is the high school where my wife graduated. And I spent 21 years teaching chemistry, giving tutoring also. I even wrote a book about a chemistry guide. It was a chemistry guide for grade 10. And
Mm,
here I have a small story, if I can, that one day I was tutoring 101 with a girl. She was in a public school, and she said, please, professor, can we use a specific book, because my teacher, she used this book, and she give all the quiz from this book. She make all the explanation, everything from this book. I said, which book? I said, she told me, I don't know. I said to her, can you give me some evidence, something? She said,
mm-hmm.
it's a yellow book. There's an atom on it, a figure like that. And what happened, that this book was my book.
Oh,
so
that's
so the
awesome.
teacher, yes, the teacher was teaching with my book in the public school in Lebanon. I was shocked, and she said, this is the book, this is the book. So she was very happy. And when the student is engaging with you, he's gonna make a good effort, and he's gonna make good in his exam.
Yeah,
So
no, that sounds good.
yeah, so I taught chemistry. I have from grade 7 till grade 12. Uh, in Lebanon, we have two important grade 9 and grade 12. At
Mm,
grade 9, it's there's at the end of the year, there's a national exam to pass from grade 9 to grade 10, and this is the high school over there in Lebanon.
mm,
And at grade 12, at the end of the year, also we have a national exam to pass to go to college, to go to university. And
mm.
so uh, my teaching experience shift in 2006, when I began teaching the highest grade, the grade
Mm.
12 chemistry. uh, so 21 years. In January 2024, my family and I made the life changing decision to come to New York as a permanent resident. And we landed in New York chemistry. We landed in New York City. I'm
Mhm.
so where I worked with my brother in his business, and someone tell me that there's a program, an important program in New York City, teaching fellows. I
Mhm.
applied December 2024. I got the acceptance between March, something like that, and now
Mhm.
I'm a candidate to. I'm a fellows. I'm proud to
Mhm.
be a New York teacher candidate fellows, and I'm in the same time I'm preparing my master in education also with the teaching fellows.
Okay, no, that sounds good. It's funny. When we were talking behind the scenes, I had forgotten this, but I actually remember it now. I actually had a friend that I went to school with out on Long Island years ago. We went to high school together, and she actually was a New York City teaching fellow and spent a lot of time working at, I think it was a middle school in Brownsville, New York. Do
Yeah,
you
yeah.
do you already know do you already know like which area in New York City you'll be teaching during that
So
time?
yeah, so I visit a lot of areas like Bronx,
Mhm.
Manhattan, and even Queens. Also,
Mhm.
I did go to Queens, but I didn't get um, decision where I'm gonna teach.
Okay.
And where I go, there's always someone. He is a teaching fellows. He is a
Mhm.
AP. He is a principal. Or maybe I even at LinkedIn, when I post my post saying that I'm very proud to be a New York teacher fellows. Many people said we are fellows, also cohort 37 or cohort 7 or something like that. I was
Mhm.
very happy. Yeah,
Yeah, no, it's a really common program. It's I think it's probably one of like the
the
best
best. Yeah,
programs for
yeah.
New York City teachers because you know I think in order to be a New York City teaching fellow, um, you have to really want to do the work. Like I think it's one of those things where you have to actually really care about kids because like the pay is not that great and you're not working, like your experience is in like a private high school, but like you're not gonna be in, one of like the posh schools, like one of the top ranked schools. Like you're actually, and so I think like there has to be a certain level of care
Mhm.
that goes into it. And so I wonder if being a father doesn't, kind of influence why you actually, decided like that was the best route for you. Like, I don't know if you like even thought about it in that way, but do you think, perhaps like just being the father of children that has impacted your decision to even go through with this like New York City teaching fellow program?
So as we speak, minutes ago, I goes where the money is. Why I said that? Why I said that? Because when I came back from France,
Mm-hmm.
uh, I was I want to marry, and I married the one that I know her. I know her before my trip to France, and the first job as a teacher, it wasn't a chemistry teacher. It
Mm-hmm.
was a French teacher to teach the kids French because I was fluent in the French. So I
Mm-hmm.
so, so it was there is money over there, so let's go over there making money from teaching kids French. So it began step by step. At my first days in teaching, I teach in a school. It was a very small school, and like things happen. The school, as I said to you, the private school was the school of my wife. So they called me and they said in the middle of school years, they called me uh, around January 99, something like that, or
Mm-hmm.
98. I do not remember. And they said, we have a vacant post because vacancy post because the teacher, the chemistry teacher, leaves us. I said, in the
Mm.
middle, in the middle of
School year. That's
yeah,
crazy. But
yeah, yeah,
sometimes it
yeah,
happens. Sometimes it happens.
yeah, yeah. And so I came. I began to. It was only 7 period in the weeks. I must. It was a grade
Mhm.
7. They have only 1 period of chemistry in the week, but it was very very good experience. And the
Mhm.
AP in this school helped me a lot. She said to me, I still remember that, you taught, you teach chemistry, use the lab, go
Mhm.
every single period to the lab, make a hands-on activity, make a reaction, make experience. And this is that what let me be spending 21 years of
Mm.
my my uh, my age in this school.
No, that's pretty awesome. And I think it's so like I'm glad you actually raised that like going where the money is because I remember, it's funny. I always tell people, I was an accidental professor because when I went to college, I didn't go into college thinking I'm going to be a professor. Like there were only two things on my mind. I was either going to be a brain surgeon or I was going to be a lawyer. Lawyer one, right? You know, and so, but ultimately, like I think it was in 2009. Yeah, like 2009. Right after the market crash, the Great Recession in the States, it was really hard for me to leave my full time job to go back to go to law school
Hmm.
without knowing that I would have a job when I
Hmm.
graduated law school. And so, I did what any smart person would do. I decided to get a master's degree in medieval studies. And I'm obviously being sarcastic here because nobody in their right mind was getting a master's in medieval studies in 2009.
Yeah,
Most people were looking for,
job.
looking for degrees that could get them an actual job. But I was in a very good spot at the time where I had always worked during college. And so I was, managing teams for retail shops at that point. And so it was one of those things where I was like, it's a degree I can pay for. And wouldn't you know, like in the middle of my last semester in that master's degree program, I get offered a position as a professor at my school that I was
Mhm.
going to. And I thought, okay, I'll come talk to you guys. Like it was one of those things where it wasn't on my mind, but it was an opportunity of a lifetime. And
Yeah,
so, sometimes your opportunities they don't come when you expect them, right? They
exactly,
you might not even be expecting it. And so,
exactly.
I think it's so important to like be adaptable in your career
Mhm.
and recognize like, hey, like things might not be going exactly the way I want them to go right now
Yeah.
because, like, if I'm being honest, I would have liked to start law school that fall,
Mhm.
but that was just not in the cards for me. And so it was one of those things where I got to still, have intellectual, stimulation and like actually make a difference in people's lives.
Mhm.
And so I ended up working at Brooklyn College and then York College later on, you
This is a
know
big opportunity.
yeah,
Yeah.
and I was young. I think I was like 25, 26 when I started out, and like I knew people at the time who wanted that opportunity but just weren't positioned for that
Yeah.
opportunity, or
Yeah. Yeah.
didn't have the right connections or whatever. And so I
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah.
so I
Yeah.
think just like being in the position, it's like you taking that job as a French teacher, actually opened the door for the chemistry teacher opportunity
Exactly.
because
To this, yeah, to the high school in the middle of a school year. It was,
yeah,
yeah, it was, yeah, yeah, exactly. It
yeah.
was an
And so,
opportunity. I take it. Yeah. Yeah.
No, I think this is, I mean, I know this isn't where we were like necessarily going with our conversation today, but like, I think this is so important for this time and season, right? Where
Yeah.
so much disruption is happening in
Exactly.
employment. And
Yeah.
so, as the disruption is happening, like, we just need to be open to what's
Mm.
available, like I mentioned this to you offline as well, where like, really early in my career, if you were paying me money that could support my life, I was
Let's go.
coming. Like, I didn't, I couldn't care less. Like, for
Yeah.
me, it was one of those things, like, ultimately, like, becoming a professor. Like, I remember when I completely shifted to full time as a professor,
Mm.
like, that was hard for me because I was so used to having additional income. Like, I've always had like two jobs. And so, but for me, like, even just being able to do that, like being in the financial position to be able to say, oh, you know what, I'm just gonna focus on
Let's
the
go.
one thing now.
Mm.
Like, to me, like, I wouldn't change it for the world, but I remember, I think my first 2 years as a professor, I was still, yeah, it was like my first 2.5 years as a professor. I was still, managing people, like doing recruiting and training and development. And so, like, my students could potentially bump into me at like a local shop, but I didn't care. Like, and but it really, again, like, it just goes to show, like, you never really know who people are as
Yeah.
well, and I think that's important. Like, that's why you can't judge a book by its cover. Like, you don't
Exactly.
know, because the people I worked with in the store, like, the clients, they didn't know. Like, I didn't walk around saying, oh, I'm a professor at blah blah blah, because like, it just never came. It wasn't something that would just come up. um and
No, no.
I'm sure you were the same. Like, although you were like a French teacher,
Yeah.
I'm sure you weren't going around saying, well, I'm actually a chemistry teacher. Like, like, it just,
Yeah,
like,
exactly. And this
you
is
know
this is in Lebanon, to be a teacher in a private school, where there in this school where I was as a chemistry teacher, each year we have between 5,000 and
mm,
6,000 students from
wow.
K to 12. So and
Mm,
after that we open a second branch. It was English branch, but
mm,
and Lebanon, we must say something, that the curriculum is the is the learning by French or English. So me,
mm.
it was French section.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah, okay. So being a teacher in a very big school, it was a very huge something for me. I was walking like this in the middle of street and saying, I'm a chemistry teacher, and this is happened to my kids when I began to go with him to shopping.
Mm,
They have about their age about 10 or 11 or 12. There was exciting to see everyone say hello, hi teacher, hi teacher, hi teacher.
mhm,
even
mhm.
even 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 one of my kids said, I count more than 50% talk to you as a teacher in the middle
Mm.
of street. Yeah, yeah, in Lebanon. They was very happy, and it was being teacher in Lebanon. It's something.
It's very important. Like,
Yeah, yeah,
it's like prestigious work, even if you
exactly. It's
will.
a prestige. It's
Um.
and when you begin lower at level grade 7, and you go back, and this
Mhm.
prestige become more bigger, and you become more respectful in the street, in the
Mhm.
city.
Yeah, no, well, it's like, it's reputational, right? Like, if they're
and
gonna move you, if they're gonna
and you
move
got,
you.
I want to say something, and you got something free because you are you're a
Oh,
teacher.
so it's almost like you're a celebrity,
Yeah,
after a while.
exactly,
Yeah,
exactly.
no,
Yeah,
that's awesome. No,
yeah, yeah.
it's funny. I spent some time working in like Chinese learning centers in Chinatown. In like the 2010s, I was
Mm.
doing that work. Just like giving back. And I remember while I was doing that work, That's how the parents, they treated me like royalty.
Yeah,
You
exactly. Yeah.
know, especially like when like their kids would like, make the scores, because like I would do a lot of like PSAT, SAT training. And
You
so
send
like,
your gift,
yeah,
give your
like I would
gift. Yeah,
really like, and I mean like really nice gifts where
yeah.
like some of them I still have, where I'm like, wow, this is really nice. But I think ultimately, part of the reason I wanted you to come on today is because I think like, one, like I think it's important for fathers to be uplifted, just because like just doing the work of like being present, and also being a provider is really important, as a father. And so like and that's why I'm doing this show, is because I really want to kind of uplift the men who have decided like, I'm going to take responsibility and be there for my children and be there for my family, right?
Hmm.
But also, the twist was, oh, he's a chemistry teacher, and I was a chemistry major that like never used my chemistry for anything, which I'm a little bit ashamed of.
Uh,
You know, but like for me, it was like a good way to kind of like, I really loved my chemistry teachers in high school and college. And so it was one of those things where I was like, oh, chemistry teachers need a shout out as well. And so like you had like the perfect combination of things for this episode.
Thank you
But
so much.
ultimately, Hamdi, what I really want to know is like, what kind of lessons do you want or hope your children will remember the most from you as their father, and as somebody, and as having like a teacher in the home? Like, what's something, some of the things you've hoped that they've picked up from you and your wife, who's also, been a teacher and chemist, as well.
So, so the big job, essentially, it was for my wife,
Mm-hmm.
because I was working from 7 to 2, and
Mm,
from 4 to sometime 10 or maybe 11 p.m. So she
mm,
was taking care of the kids, but we have also, as I'm gonna use, we have, since we are chemists, so we have this chemistry between us,
mm,
and she was taking good care about the house, everything, uh, teaching the kids after school, even though she was bringing them from the same school where I teach. So she was doing a great job. And I like that my son, my two boys and my girl, learn from me that that as a teacher you must have a report, a rules, and a procedure also, to have to be a leader in your classroom.
mm,
When you are a leader in your classroom, your year is working smoothly. So
mm-hmm,
I use this strategies that I mentioned now, report, procedure, rules, and also in my home, to be to everything work correctly. And this is what I want them to take it from me and to give to their kids also.
mm-hmm. No, that makes sense. And so, can you like talk about like one of the strategies that you've taught your kids that you hope that they're implementing in their own lives?
So I want, when you, yeah, when you make strategies and you work on the strategies, uh, I just ask my kids to be kind, to be respectful, also for me, for her, for their mom, also for my family. And when the person that implement all these strategies, it's my wife, it's not me.
Mm-hmm,
As
mm-hmm,
I said, I was working, I was doing tutoring, but each time when I'm come back, she said, uh, my okay, I'm gonna say something. Ratib is my first boy. Okay,
mm-hmm,
Yahya and Noor.
mm-hmm,
Okay, and each one and each one has a meaning. Ratib, he is the meaning of having a money, your salary,
Mhm.
each month. Okay, each month. Yahya, he is a John as a, in the public stuff, and that's mean life also. And Noor,
Mhm.
she's a moonlight. This dog, every one of my kids has a meaning for his name. So
Mhm.
when I came at the night, she said, Yahya do this, Ratib do that, and she was doing, and was her reaction to what they do. It
Yeah.
was the same reaction that I'm I'm present with them, but
Mm.
I
Mm.
wasn't present. She did amazing stuff. She implement respect and grateful in these kids.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think that, it's funny. One of my other guests last week, Ruben Gottlieb, he talked about how just having like the support of his wife at home and his extended family has helped him be successful, right? And so it
Mm,
sounds to me like something that needs to happen is, the parents need to have a conversation about what they want done, like how they want the kids to be raised. And then once it's happening, be consistent.
yeah, yeah,
And I
yeah,
mean, like, that's something I heard as a kid. Like, like you hear parents arguing and they're like, oh, well, you can't always be the good guy. Like, and some parents do that, right? Where it's like, whether it's the mom or the dad, where it's like, oh no, I'm like the cotton candy and and flowers parent, and this person like has to do any kind of taking away or grounding or
mm,
punishment. You do, but I have to remain the good guy. And I love, like, at least what I've heard from the three guests so far is like working together with your
exactly,
spouse
exactly,
is so
exactly,
important in
exactly,
maintaining a healthy home life so that
exactly,
you can actually flourish in your careers.
exactly.
And I think that's so important.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. One time you are the good one. One time you are
Hmm.
the other guy. But
Yeah.
but when you are the good, she was the other guy. When I'm the other
Exactly.
guy, she's a good uh,
Hmm. And
wife.
I think that's like I think that's good and healthy for kids too, because they
Exactly,
realize, like, no matter what, I can go to my parents. Like,
exactly,
I think that's
exactly.
really important.
This
um
is this is what we are working on it, and we work on it, and now thanks God, when they have any issues or they have something to say, they come to me or they come to their mother.
hmm
They come to their mother plus me, more than me.
Yeah, yeah. No, and I think that's important where they know, like, because I feel like kids, they're
We are
gonna try
here.
to,
We are here. We are here.
yeah.
Yeah. One time, in the beginning of my experience, teaching experience, I I give a tutoring lesson, physics tutoring lesson to someone. It was
Mhm.
12, 14 years old, something like that.
Mhm.
But what surprised me, that the dad, his father, he was a PhD physics
Oh, wow.
teacher. Okay,
Mm.
so I asked him. I want to ask you something. Why you didn't teach your son? So he told me that he brings me to give his son study, to support him, and to know that he will give him any supplies or any aid he want. And if
Mm.
he has something, he come to him and he told what he wants. And he told me, if I teach him, maybe I will say something, will let him go back, not
Mhm.
go
Mhm.
front. So
Yeah.
this lesson was a very big lesson in the beginning of my teaching experience, teaching life, because I said, if one day my son wants something, I will bring him, I will
Yeah.
help him. Uh,
Mhm.
donc,
No,
donc
I think
support,
that's important. I
yeah,
think that's really
support
important.
support the kids, and being a not a father, I'm gonna use another word, a big brother to him also.
Mhm. Mhm.
to be
Yeah.
present, to be near to them, to listen also what they want, what they need, and this is very important. Listen,
Yeah.
listen, listen.
Yeah, no, I think so too. I mean, and I feel like that's something that's not very common right now in like modern society, just like people listening to their kids, right? Like
Yeah,
they're like I feel
exactly,
like a lot of like in a lot of families right now, like there's a lot of talking at each other, but no one's really paying attention. And so like I think it's so important to like remember like if I don't listen, then I don't know I don't know what the person needs because I haven't been
exactly,
listening, and so I
exactly,
can't support them in what they need, or
exactly,
figure out, oh wait, I don't have what it takes to support them, but like maybe we can go and get extra help to support them, right?
exactly,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah.
And sometimes during the session, the chemistry session, I stop the class to listen to my student, because
Mhm.
sometimes when you listen, maybe the information will pass after more smoothly, more rapid. Exactly.
Mhm. Mhm.
Mm.
No, that makes total sense. And so I want to switch gears a little bit because you speak three languages, and you're actually, and not just like okay, like you're actually fluent in three languages. And so one of my best friends, she's also fluent in three languages. Like I'm one of those people that like knows a little bit of this, a little bit of that. I used to be able to say that I was fluent in French, but I won't say that now because I haven't spoken French out loud since 2019. So I'm sure I'm rusty, you know? um, because that was yeah, I'm thinking about it. That was the last time that I was in France. I was in Nice in in 2019. And so like how do you like have you taught have you taught your children the additional languages you've learned along the way, and then two, like how did you find that like impacted their like learning experience, if you did, like how did you find that impacted their learning experience, or even your own learning experience as you were like growing and developing as a teacher and kind of like learning additional languages? How do you find that helped, kind of give you awareness about the world? um
So in our little home, we spoke Arabic to have our roots and the tradition of our family.
mhm.
And in French, it was the second language that I spoke with my wife when the kids are just
Yeah.
little baby and they don't understand French. And
Mhm.
even in the first days of our marriage, I was speaking French with my wife also, in
Mhm.
front of her parents, to say something, or to ask
Right.
something, etc. So we have this. The English, I'm not fluent in English. My kids are more fluent than me,
Mhm.
and they learn English because it's international language. Okay, in their school, the first language was the French, and second one is Arabic, and the third one was English. But they
Mhm.
learn English from themselves, regarding TV, showing TV, the show, everything. Even
Yeah.
Disney is the Disney Channel. We have Disney Channel in
Yeah.
Lebanon. So there was very fluent. But now they help me to speak English, to say words, to write
Mhm.
sentences, and so they have. I didn't make an impact on them. They make an impact on me.
That's pretty awesome. And can I just say, like, if this is you not being fluent in English, I don't know what fluent is. Because because like I've definitely interacted with people who thought they were fluent, and I was like, no, not actually. And so maybe this is you just being very hard on yourself.
Yeah,
But
maybe.
but ultimately, it's like when I go to Italy, I'm fluent in Italian. Like you can't tell me anything,
Mm,
because like I literally it's the most bizarre thing, but I feel like when I'm in like like I spent years learning Italian and French. And
mhm.
so now if I go to a country where that's the main language, it's like my brain just has a switch in it
Yeah,
that clicks on, and all of a sudden all the words I thought I no longer knew, they're right there, and I'm able to communicate in a way
yeah.
where like I've had the people respond and say, oh, are you
Mm.
Parisian, or and I'm like, no, I'm just
I,
like
I
I'm an American cosplaying right now.
I saw some French tourists in Upper East Side, and spoke French. They said, are you French? I said, no, I'm Lebanon. I studied in French. They told me that you have the accent of the France. I said,
Mm,
oh yeah, it was very long time, but I want to say something also. I was listening to your podcast and some other podcasts to understand, to listen, to make all
mm-hmm,
this sentence, to have all this vocabulary, because it helps me to speak and
mm-hmm.
to be maybe fluent in English.
Yeah, but again, it's like I think what's important, right, is like even as a teacher teaching others, like what I love is like you still have this hunger for learning yourself. And
Exactly.
so, to me, like that's the kind of teacher I want teaching me, like is the teacher who is constantly developing themselves, like wanting to know more instead of,
I hope so. I hope so. I hope so.
no, but I think it's important because like, and again, like, you know we can say what we want about American society. At the end of the day, like it's just one of those places where you can come, and your ability to adapt to the lifestyle in this country, like it actually can like impact your ability to grow and thrive,
Mhm,
and
mhm,
so to me, like just you being able to do this, I won't say your age, but like as somebody who's like older,
mhm,
like I remember actually in my organic chemistry class when I was a freshman in college, I started off with organic chemistry because I was kind of a nerdy high school kid.
mhm,
And one of my lab partners was actually like a 65-year-old man,
mhm, mhm.
and
Yeah,
he was just now getting his college degree. Like he was a contractor his whole life, contractor and carpenter. Had just retired at the time, bought his wife a villa, in I think in the Hamptons somewhere. So he had done very well for himself, but something he always wanted to do was get a degree. And
yeah.
so now that he was, gonna have his own like winery and
Mhm.
vineyard,
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
he
yeah, yeah.
decided he wanted to get the
To
chemistry
combine this
degree.
chemistry was, yeah.
Exactly. And so like I remember as an 18-year-old meeting somebody like that and thinking, wow, like I want to be like that when I'm older. Like I want to be confident enough in my choices and my decisions to be willing to kind of learn something new as an older person, and shift with the times, right? And so one question I have to ask you, which I didn't put this on the list, and I'm sorry about that. And I think we can kind of end with this one because it might take some time. But what are your ideas about implementing the use of AI technology in the classroom to help students, get a better understanding of chemistry and all this stuff? Like, is this something you're already thinking about, as you're, now, kind of beginning your adventure as a chemistry teacher in New York
Uh,
City?
so I like technology. I like
Mhm.
very lot technology. One time I was preparing a PowerPoint for to explain something to my
Mhm.
student. It was about galvanic cell, how electrons flow from anode to cathode and something.
Yeah.
And I was making my PowerPoint and everything. And you know what? the chemistry concept is very complex and very unusual to explain to someone.
Mm-hmm.
You cannot see the atom, you cannot see the molecule, you cannot see the electron. You just see paper,
Yeah.
plastic, just we say
Mm-hmm.
matter. We saw matter. Just that. That's it.
Yeah.
We have we have signed when we make a chemical reaction. We have change of color, everything. You know that as a chemistry.
Right, right, right. No, for sure. And so I
So
guess
No, so I was preparing this PowerPoint, and when I finish it, I was bringing some photo from here and make some sentence. And when I turn it on this PowerPoint, I saw that there was a little point that that goes from anode to cathode. This is was the electron. So the
mm-hmm.
flows of electron, I can see it. It was an animation. It was not
Right.
a real thing. It was animation. But the spark in the eyes of my student, it was phenomenal, and
Mm-hmm.
it was something very very good to see. And when you say we go from A to B, we go from A to B, and you don't see it. This
Actually
is,
see it.
yeah. But when we see that something is going from A to B, so you see it, you
Mm-hmm.
understand the
Mm-hmm.
concept, you understand.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So using technology with now with student in the classroom, it's a very important thing. And introducing also AI in this classroom, it's very important. And let's say something, the AI, you give the prompt to the AI, you give him the code, you give him everything. He just combine and extract it to you in different ways like you want.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe
Mm-hmm.
method one, method two, you choose. But using AI in the classroom, it's very important. And also it's very challenging, because when you use AI and you know that your student use AI, you're gonna put the level high to challenge
Yeah.
them, and to challenge them and to extract from them the best of knowledge and the best of studies and everything.
Yeah, no, I think that I mean that's very similar to how I think about technology. I know when I first started teaching, I was very anti technology in my classrooms, and I got away with it in the beginning because whatever, I was an English professor who
Mhm,
also taught some like poli sci courses, right?
mhm,
And so I could afford to say, "Oh, no technology in class." But then I remember when one of the colleges asked me to start teaching hybrid courses.
mhm,
And now I was like, okay, like the only way this is going to work is if I can duplicate a second day of class each week with the tech that was available to me at the time. So I wasn't using AI technology per se, but we had a learning platform,
mhm.
Blackboard at the time that I
Yeah,
used. And
I know it. Yeah, yeah.
and so like and then I went from being like a stark, critic of using
Mhm,
tech in the classroom to no, this is really good because like now I can really curate a class for my students. And so like I was able to have like real-time conversations with my students even though we
exactly,
weren't in the classroom, which I
exactly,
loved.
exactly.
And then like I was able to like just, ping them with materials that like if I was out one day
Mhm.
and I saw, a billboard that
Yeah,
reminded me of something we talked about in class, like I could
yeah.
literally take a photo and just like send it
Put
to
it.
them and they
Yeah,
would, and so like it made what we were learning in class very real,
exactly, exactly.
something I envision with using AI technology in the classroom is, you know, like I could picture like teachers coming up with like short videos to
Mhm,
explain the more difficult concepts to
mhm,
students.
Hmm.
Because like we tend to remember the things we see, the images we see. That's
Yeah.
why
Yeah.
so much money and effort is put into
Mm,
videos. That's why
mm,
on LinkedIn, like your video content gets more gets more push in the algorithm than your
yeah.
written content, because people are more likely to kind of tune in to video. And
Exactly.
so
Exactly.
like, I
Exactly.
remember as a kid, like I loved reading, and I'll admit, like I can learn probably 99% of things just by reading it alone without any examples, but that's just cuz that's the age I grew up in, I think.
Hmm. Hmm.
But I remember coming across students where they needed the diagram, they needed an image, they needed, like a
To
clip
see
from,
something. To see
yeah,
something. Yeah.
even just like even hearing a song to kind of like
Exactly.
get the concept. And so like what I love about the use of AI technology is if we're using it in the classroom and showing students how to use it as a tool rather than as a
Exactly.
replacement, they're more
Exactly.
likely to use it as a tool because they realize, oh no, this is an add-on. For me, like the
Mm-hmm.
AI, like it should be like icing. If it's not icing, maybe it's part of the batter and
Yeah.
you decide like, okay, I'm gonna bake the cake with
He
this, right?
yeah, he will be in he will be middle between teacher and student, and
Exactly.
yeah, the bridge
Mm-hmm.
to give what you know, to give your knowledge to the student, and
Mm-hmm.
it will be more convenient from this with this way, in this way. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Yeah. No. Well, oh my gosh. Well, thank you so much,
Thank you so much
Hamdi,
for you. Thank you so much.
for coming through today. I know it's Saturday. Like, I don't know about you, but I would
I,
rather
I
be at
I
the
have
beach right
study. I
now.
have study. I have two presentation for Monday.
Oh wow.
I have a big schedule for this set, and the reason that because in the last podcast I didn't go to online to listen to you or your guest
Mm-hmm.
because I was studying. I was in the middle in class and I
But
cannot.
you know what, Hamdi? Actually, you know what? Thank you for mentioning that. So, guys, like, I just want to give like a special LinkedIn award to Hamdi because
Thank
like
you so
he
much.
has checked out
Thank
like
you so much.
literally every video that I've posted.
Thank you so much.
And we're actually meeting for the first time today. Like
Yes, exactly.
we've communicated online. And so like this is some encouragement for some of you. Like if you're thinking about doing live videos and you're kind of like, oh, I don't know, I
Mhm.
like just do it. Like there are
Yeah.
people, like you can meet like really cool people online. And it doesn't have to be a big deal. It doesn't have to be a big
Exactly.
show.
Exactly.
In
Exactly.
fact, like I mean, I learned so much just from talking to Hamdi today, and I know
Thank
like
you so
I
much. I
know
learned so
you
much
know
from you. Thank you so much.
yeah,
I
so
appreciate.
I'm so grateful for you, Hamdi, for taking
Thank
the
you so
time out
much.
of your day to share about,
Thank you.
your
Thank you so much.
fatherhood, but also, as a professional and as a teacher, and just being willing,
Thank you so
to
much.
show up
Thank
for
you
a
so much.
stranger. I really appreciate that. And I guess we're not strangers anymore because
No.
we're chemically aligned. Um, but thank you, thank you guys so much. Have a good
Thank you.
one.
Have a good one. Thank you. Have a nice